Hello and welcome. I'm Professor Annis, and today I will be teaching the Care of Magical Creatures class. As we talk about creatures today, if you have any questions to ask, please feel free to ask them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. Today, the Ministry of Magic has approved the attendance of quite a few visitors, some of them even muggles. I thought we could go over the basics of some magical creatures that have very similar muggle counterparts. That's okay with you. As you know, the Ministry of Magic has a creature classification system that ranges from 1X, which is completely harmless, to 5X, which means impossible to train, mortally dangerous, and or illegal. I thought we'd start with a very simple 1X creature that you might even be able to find in your very own yard. I'm going to be digging here in this little patch of dirt by my pumpkin patch. If you have permission from your parents, of course, you can go out and dig in a patch of dirt in your yard with me and see if you can find a worm. Now, to the untrained eye, and even sometimes to the trained ones, muggle earthworms are fairly indistinguishable from flobberworms. They are identical on both ends. It's hard to tell which end is the head and which end is the tail. As a matter of fact, magizoologists have never been able to find out which end is which with flobberworms. They've even looked for eyes and can't find any, so they believe that flobberworms are blind. Let's see. Keep digging. I can almost always find flobberworms in this patch of dirt. It's okay if you don't find any today. I may not either, but I'll still tell you how to tell the difference in case you do find one sometime. Unlike the earthworm, which has an extra protective layer of outer skin, the flobberworm skin is very fragile. It breaks at even the slightest pressure. Instead, they have a protective inner layer around their organs, so they're not quite as fragile as they seem. Oh my goodness. Where are all my worms? Did you find a worm in the dirt yet? If you did, try to gently pick it up. If you pick it up fairly gently, oh, found one. And the skin breaks, it's probably a flobberworm. Oh, I have a tiny one. If the skin doesn't break, it's probably an earthworm. The good news is that both flobberworms and earthworms have one thing in common. Well, something else in common. They are very, very good for your garden because they aerate the soil and they help to break down organic matter into things that plants can use as nutrients. So, whichever you found, you can gently place your worm into a patch of ground where something is growing, and it will help it to grow. I'll save mine for Professor Sprout. If you found one today, we would love to have someone take a picture of you with your worm and share it with us before you set it free. Class, say hello to Ruby. Ruby looks like a hedgehog, although no one, not even an expert, would know that she's not just by looking at her. Ruby is a gnarl. Gnarls also have a Ministry of Magic classification of 3X. Gnarls look exactly like hedgehogs, and there's no way to distinguish either of these creatures solely based on their appearance. How could I be so sure that this creature is in fact a gnarl and not a hedgehog then? Well, the secret is in its temperament. A hedgehog is typically a very friendly and social creature. However, gnarls are not. They are skeptical and paranoid. The way to tell hedgehogs from gnarls is fairly simple. However, I would not attempt this method unless you are prepared for absolute destruction. The trick is to gently offer the creature food. An ordinary hedgehog will gladly accept a treat, but a gnarl will be wary, assuming you're trying to trap it. The creature will generally overreact and will not only run, but also try to destroy everything in the general vicinity. Gnarls are herbivores. Who can tell me what that means? Yes, their diet consists solely of vegetation. A gnarl's favorite thing to eat are daisies. Having daisies around your home may attract a gnarl, but even though daisies are their favorite, please don't offer them to the creature the first time you meet them. It will still result in a destructive rampage. Gnarls are not generally kept as pets, however, they may be domesticated somewhat. If you notice a gnarl around your home and wish to befriend it, do not offer it food. Instead, simply spend time around it, but keep to yourself. After a week or so, you may let it know that it's there. Look in its direction, but do not pursue it. Only if the gnarl returns to your yard or garden every day for a month should you continue your attempts to befriend it. After that, you may offer it a small amount of food. If it accepts, you have gained the gnarl's trust. If it reacts badly, you will have to start over. Even a domesticated gnarl does not take too kindly to people other than their owners. So don't expect it to play with your friends unless they are willing to go through the same befriending process. As a point of interest, gnarl quills have magical benefits and are most commonly used in laughing potions. They are used in several products made exclusively for Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes. Do any of you have a gnarl? Don't forget to share a picture. I'm back with our next creature. This little beauty is my Krupp Luna. Krupps are a wizarding breed of dog, resembling a Muggle terrier with a forked tail. Krupps are omnivores. Can anyone tell me what an omnivore is? What does omnivore mean? Yes, it means they will eat pretty much everything or anything. Luna keeps eating all the raspberries out of my garden. Here, Luna, you want a raspberry? See? But generally, they are just as happy eating Muggle dog food as anything else. Luna here is only about 9 months old, but she's probably as big as she'll ever get. Krupps are wizard pets, but there are a few things you should know about them before you decide to get one. First, Krupps can detect magic in a person, which is why they may express some form of uneasiness with squibs. It won't be the level of aggression that they generally give to Muggles, though. If you have a squib in your family, you should know that it's possible to find a Krupp that will be loyal to them, the same way that they would witches and wizards. You just might have to look a little bit harder for them. But definitely don't expect them to be chummy with any Muggles. Another thing you should know is that because Krupps can expose the wizarding world to Muggles, who they rarely get along with, there are several things that need to be done in order to keep them as pets. All Krupp owners are required to have a license. In order to receive a license, there are a few things you have to do. You have to fill out an application stating why you'd want to own one and including a detailed care plan for them. Applicants must also show that they can properly perform a painless severing charm, which must be done when the Krupp is 6 to 8 weeks old, to remove their extra tail. You must also prove that you can control the creature in case it's accidentally released into a Muggle-filled area at some point. You can apply for a Krupp license as early as 6 months before your 19th birthday, when it is legal for you to have one. I bet quite a few of you have Krupps or Muggle dogs, so don't forget to tell us about them in the comments and share a picture of you with your Krupp or dog if you like. We'd love to see it. See you in a moment with our next creature. Normally, this last creature would be completely off limits as a Class 5X creature. Anyone have a guess as to what it could be? Yes, it's a dragon, sort of. I do love interesting creatures, although I'm not as casual about interacting with them as some magical creatures professors I've met. I was given special permission to keep this particular dragon because of its unique circumstances. He's quite a specimen. You see, at just a few weeks old, baby Crush got a terrible case of scale rot and was on the verge of death. An unnamed witch who came upon him in the wild and felt compassion for him tried to cure the rot with a powerful spell that she wasn't terribly familiar with. Something went awry, and the spell accidentally removed all of his scales and replaced them with fur. He also stopped growing and became very docile. He now somewhat resembles a dog to most Muggle eyes, and we don't correct them, although he is a little long for a dog. We named him Crush because he easily forms crushes and truly adores everyone, even Muggles. But also he is, after all, a dragon, so he could crush you if he wanted to. He and Luna are best pals, but she's generally more aggressive than he is. To teach us about our last creature today, we have a very, very special guest who has just this moment returned from a long trip to observe rare creatures in the wild. You might recognize this guest as the author of your textbook, my friend Newt. Newt, come in. Thank you so much for coming.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Professor. I've never dealt with a dragon quite like Crush before.
Right? He's definitely an interesting one, but he's the bestest boy dragon.
Now, dragons are usually fierce reptilians with impressive wings. Most of them are fire-breathing creatures from about the time they are 6 months old. They are highly dangerous and cannot generally be domesticated or trained to safely coexist with humans. Dragons are also easily one of the most recognizable magical creatures, so they are also very difficult to keep hidden from Muggles.
That's why if you see Crush out and about, you will not see his wings, except maybe on Halloween. As we use an invisibility charm to keep them hidden from the Muggles, he can't seem to stay away from.
All dragon eggs, just get them from my chalk here, look like they are covered in scales and are generally recognizable from breed to breed by the colours. For instance,
this is a Romanian longhorn egg.
Dragons don't keep their eggs in nests, and they don't sit on them to keep them warm. Does anybody know why? They breathe fire on the eggs to keep them warm instead. No. Pretend I didn't have this. Hatchlings are fed dragon milk, but it's not at all like a mammal feeding its young. It's actually rather similar to the way that birds feed their offspring. Dragons have a crop, an organ found in the digestive system of some animals, that is used to store food in the beast's body to wait for digestion when they need it. When dragons hatch, the parent's crop, which has just been storing food, now converts it to milk. Dragon milk is a chunky, fairly solid substance. You wouldn't want to drink it. The parents cough up this substance and feed it to the young. After eating only dragon milk for 3 days, the hatchlings may begin to eat raw meat. Baby dragons then begin to breathe fire at around 6 months and are able to fly at about a year. By about 2 years old, they can live completely on their own.
Crush's development was stunted very early, so he can't fly or breathe fire, although sometimes his breath smells like he should be able to.
Dragons contribute quite a lot to the wizarding world. As you probably know, dragon hide is a very popular material used for jackets, gloves, boots, and other apparel and bags because of its strength and ability to deflect spells. My case is made out of dragon hide. Dragon heartstrings are sometimes used as a wand core. In that one. Dragon milk can also be used to make cheese, although it's considered an acquired taste.
Personally, I cannot imagine ever acquiring it. But dragon cheese and meat are both offered in many high-end restaurants. Not for me.
Dragon liver, horn, and claws are also pretty common potion ingredients. Also, dragon dung is a fantastic fertilizer. Sometimes dragons are also used for security. In Gringotts, they are used to guard certain vaults. The Ministry has also used them to guard other locations periodically in times of need. Dragons are not to be used for personal home security because they are class 5X, but also a large dragon guarding a small house could be a problem for a variety of reasons, as you can imagine. One of the most well-known contributions from dragons is the blood. Although it is rather expensive and can only be bought at specialty stores. Once used to numb extreme pain, dragon blood is still sometimes used for this purpose in dire situations. Modern hospitals have now transitioned to potions and spell work, but in some circumstances where typical methods are not easing a patient's pain, dragon blood may be offered in small doses. Just a warning, never ingest dragon blood without medical supervision. I have done it before for research purposes and it was not a fun experience. Irresponsible use can cause a general reddish hue to the skin, a terrible fever, and intense vomiting. Lastly, dragon blood is also a great disinfectant. It can be used on everything from wounds to countertops. For disinfectant purposes, a little dragon blood goes a long way.
Oh, we've only been using sanitizing wipes at the library, but if we ever run out of wipes again, we could use a little dragon blood in a pinch.
You're welcome to borrow some.
Oh,
I have
thank you so
plenty.
much, Newt. I'm so glad you could join us for Care of Magical Creatures today. I hope you enjoyed seeing and learning about some of our favorite creatures that are similar to some Muggle creatures. We would love to have you share pictures of your own creatures in the comments if you can, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day at Hogwarts. Thanks for coming to class. Goodbye.